Thank you very much for this nice introduction, and thank you for TOPRA for, this new or 2001 TOPRA EMA meeting. And it's true that when we have been asked within the agency and within the work program to set up this session, I think we were surprised to actually acknowledge the fact that I think information about our structure and organization was potentially not that clear, even though I think we have been reorganized about 2 years ago. That was back into September 2009. And I think we hope that with this session you will get at least some kind of general and also some practical and some more detailed information about who we are and what do we do within this within EMA. This picture here is also to give you, I think, since we are always trying to look at the future. Last year, for those who were at the previous TOPRA meeting, I presented this picture of the agency with the evolution of all the taking up of the different floors within the West Ferry Circus, number 1, number 7, number 11, and all these different floors due to the increase of staff and all the responsibility that we had to take on board due to new legislation being, let's say, having to be implemented by the organization. On this slide here, I think we just also wanted to show and share with you, I think, what the new EMA building in 2014 may look like, I think, and the reason of some of the changes which have occurred and the need for further potential expansion to happen structurally wise, also or architecturally wise. So the aim of this presentation is to then provide you some background and principle about 2009 EMA organization changes, to provide you with who's who within the organization and what are the responsibilities of the different units, sectors, and sections which have been created further to this organization, and to give you some kind of conclusion remarks at the end. So going back to why this organization took place in 2001, that was led by principles of process improvement, which was already started back in 2007. And this was aimed at focusing on the review of the business of human units. So that was really triggering specifically pre- and post-authorization units of the human medicines agency. But then, further to this initiation of all this organization and review of the structure, it happened that organizational and non-organizational issues were identified, which led to the broadening of, let's say, identifying needs of other changes outside the human units. And this has also taken into consideration feedback that have been gathered through staff engagement survey that we've got on a yearly basis within the organization, and that was the ones from 2008. So what has happened further to all this analysis and understanding of how things were managed and reason as to why certain processes and structure were in place before, it was decided that there was a need for aligning structure to functions and processes, that there shouldn't be any new senior middle management posts except for data management, and this will be explained further by Claudia, I think, afterwards. There is also the need for to maintain the current titles of head of units and sector. That was something which was a principle. This being linked with the, let's say, legislation and commission management of all these titles. There was also, I think, identification of the need for new delegated management level with sections to improve staff and process supervision, and to have more emphasis, in order to have more emphasis and ownership and accountability for processes and procedure. So having analyzed that and having these principles in mind, this was why this structure I'm going to present to you today has been then established and in place since September 2009. So who's who? Starting by, let's say, the top management and executive director, as you know all, and you have met him, I think, for all of you, I think, potentially for the first time. Professor Guido Razzi has been nominated by the management board in June, and started within our organization about a week ago, on the 15th or 16th of November. And you can see within this organization that there is executive support. The legal service of the agency is also placed at directorate level. And this is where I think some of you may hear sometimes that within your evaluation or within your, let's say, question related to validation or something like that, that project manager come to you and say, we have to consult the legal service. This is where they are placed, and there are about 10 lawyers currently working within this legal service. Linked to at the executive level support, there is also the senior medical officer, Heinz-Gerd Eichler, that I think you all know also from his many presentations that he's doing in external fora. And there is also linked to the executive director at directorate level, the internal audit, which is a sector which is responsible for performing and internal audits within the agency, just to check how we do things and to make sure that we, perform our working processes and according to the SOPs and WINs that we have in place. So having spoken about directorate level supporting the executive director, there is, as you may know, 5 units within the organization. The first one led by Patrick Lecourtois, the Human Medicines Development and Evaluation. This is the biggest unit within the organization, and I will give more detail as to the responsibility, but it has around more than 200 staff members within that unit and is mainly responsible for the processing of evaluation pre- and post-authorization nowadays. The second biggest unit of the organization is led by Noël Vation that you have met this morning, and his unit is patient health and protection. And there again, I will give more details as to what is below this specific unit. The third unit of the agency is veterinary medicines and product data management. So here it's 2 different, completely, let's say, activities, and I will explain further what and why this has been, I think, organized like that. But the lead of this unit is David McKay. The 4th unit of this agency is Information and Communication Technology, and as you can understand, being a centralized European medicine agency, having one of the main responsibility of meeting and making sure networking within the organization and outside the organization with all the member states is in place. This is important to have such unit to enable this to happen. And the 5th unit being administration, and which is led by Andreas Pott, that you also may know due to his transitional, let's say, temporary position as acting director until Professor Guido was nominated, and has been appointed this week, I think, as Deputy Executive Director of Professor Guido officially, and this has happened, as I said, this week. So all this to say that overall there are about 700 staff members within the agency, and this includes different type of, let's say, staff members, so what we call temporary agents, contract agents, assistants, expert national détaché, and interims. So all that provides you with the full picture of the current numbers of the organization. So going now a step down to level to sector level, here you have identified all the different persons from all the different sectors within each of the units of the agency. And as you can see, I think I'm just going very quickly because you, I'm sure, have heard about most of the people mentioned here on this slide. The first one within the Human Medicines Development and Evaluation is Agnès Saint-Raymond. She's responsible for human medicine special areas. There again, I will detail a bit more as to what is behind or below this specific sector. Xavier Luria, that you will see tomorrow, he will be co-sharing one of the sessions on benefit risk, is the head of sector for safety and efficacy of medicine. Alexine Nolte is the head of sector appointed last year as head of sector for the quality of medicines, and we've got here Evangelos, who is one of the members of this specific sector, will be speaking today. Noel's unit has 4 sectors. We've got Peter Arlett for pharmacovigilance, and there again you will hear from him about pharmacovigilance updates on the last session of this TOPRA meeting. We have also Tony Humphries, who is the head of sector regulatory, procedural, and committee support. And Tony will also speak tomorrow, I think, end of the morning or beginning of the afternoon. Isabelle Moulon, that you have heard, responsible for medical information. And Fergus Sweeney, who is responsible for the compliance sector related to inspections of any kind. And here we have one representative, Anna, who will be speaking about GCP later on in this session. Within the veteran unit, as I said, this is subdivided in two different sectors, veterinary medicines and product management. And we've got a representative of Claudia from the product data management here, who will be giving us some information about also this specific unit and sectors. As I already mentioned, IT is subdivided in IT development, user application support, infrastructure support, very important for all these networking activities we've got within the organization, and administration subdivided into human resource, finance and budget of the overall agency, infrastructure services related to the building maintenance, and meeting and conference management for all the meetings that we are organizing within this agency. After the names, you've got the pictures. So I think here this is just for a record, just in case you meet one of them in the corridors during this conference or at other opportunities of forum. Here the challenge to you is that some of the pictures have been taken long ago, so so maybe you need to take off some hair or to change the color. I think that's the kind of thing. But at least it gives you some idea of some of the faces of all this organization. So going now into the human unit of Patrick Lecourtois, as I mentioned, this is the biggest unit within the organization, 230 staff members, responsibility for the management of, let's say, what have been mentioned several times today, core business of the agency being the centralized medicines for human use only. And it goes from scientific advice, protocol assistance, pediatrics, orphan, and all the life cycle of the medicinal products, pre and post authorization. This also unit is responsible for two committees, the COMP and the PDCO, and numerous CHMP working parties, including the Scientific Advice Working Party. And you had Spiros earlier on speaking about some of the input of scientific advice, and also the management of this and organization of the Secretariat of the SAGS meeting. So all that is also managed, coordinated, and all support provided from that specific unit. This unit is also, I think, the main scientific support for the activities related to innovation, emerging therapies, and new technologies. And this also includes the agency's SME office, which provides support, as you know, for all the SME, but not only for human medicine, also for veterinary medicines. And here at the back of the room, we've got Marisa, who is one of the lead for this innovation and emerging therapies, new technologies initiative within the organization. Now going into the specific sector of human medicine specialists area, here we have 74 staff members with 5 sections. The responsibility of this sector is administration of scientific secretarial support to the COMP and orphan, this has already been mentioned, and all the management of the pediatric, all the people, so everything related to any contacts that you may have from external, from, you know, for the pediatric and scientific advice and orphan medicinal product. This is all managed and processed through this specific sector within Agnes' responsibility of human special areas. So I think here you got all of the details here. So going quickly, because we are trying to also focus with the time that we've got here for leaving people to go to the drinks afterwards. We've got then the second sector within this unit being safety and efficacy, 91 staff members subdivided in 5 sections. The rationale behind this subdivision has been led by the therapeutic areas. So you've got infectious disease and vaccines, CNS, ophthalmology, endocrinology, metabolism, cardiovascular, oncology, hematology, diagnostics, and the 5th one, respiratory, rheumatology, GI, renal, urology, and immunology. All that all these sections are, I think, have been created in accordance with, let's say, the centralized procedure, mandatory scope, and therapeutic disease, and also, I mean, the intake of the type of application that we get applied for at the agency. As already mentioned, I think the management of all centralized application is managed by this specific sector, and it also provides all the secretariat and support for many, many working parties of the CHMP. And it also contributes to scientific advice and other activities. Third sector within the human unit, medicines development and evaluation, is the quality sector. This sector is composed of 60 staff members, and here it's deal with quality evaluation of marketing authorization pre and post. So I think this will be the type of context that you would get mainly post-authorization for all the variation that you have managed within your company. And Evangelos here will provide us with more details about quality management of variation later on. And something also maybe to mention that is not potentially obvious from an external point of view is that this sector is providing also the secretariat to two working parties, being the quality working party. Previously that was with the inspection, but this has been moved for rationalization and more logic into the system within the quality sector, and also provide support and secretariat to the biotech working party, to the gene therapy working party and the cell therapy working party, which are two working parties of the CAT, and also the blood product working party. So this is, I think, some of the particularities, specificities of the support of this quality sector within the organization. It also has, due to this particularity, responsible for certification of plasma master files and advanced therapy medicinal product, and it also has the lead for the coordination of the revision of the agency's influenza preparedness plan. So these are some of the particularity, responsibilities, specificities of this specific sector. Second biggest unit of the agency, patient health and protection. So 190 staff members within that unit are responsible to contribute to patient health protection by applying a proactive approach, and that was what Noel was mentioning this morning, and Peter Allett will be continuing this message, I think, later on at the end tomorrow of this last session, approach to pharmacovigilance risk management throughout the life cycle of medicinal products. And this is the unit responsible for the review of the benefits risk of all human medicinal products. It provides also regulatory and procedural support, and this is the responsibility of the sector of Tony Humphries, and also has the responsibility of provision of the secretariat for the other committees of the agency, the CHMP, the CAT, and the HMPC, Herbal Committee, CMDH, and the future PRAC will also will be located within that sector in the future, i.e. after July next year. It also has the responsibility, having Isabelle Moulon responsible for information to target and provide timely information to patient and healthcare professional. And there again, we've got here one who is will be providing more information about the activities of this particular aspect and responsibility of the unit. As already mentioned, coordination of compliance with GCP, GMP, GLP, pharmacovigilance requirements and inspection, quality defect of medicine, this is also within this unit, and we've got Anna will be providing more information about some of the GCP aspects and working practices within the organization. And it also, let's say, facilitate the implementation and operation of clinical trials, legal framework within EU, and provide the EMA scheme for certificates of medicinal product and parallel distribution notification of centrally authorized products. So I'm not going into details just to say about pharmacovigilance and risk management plan sector, because the other Ana Hidalgo Simon will be providing more details as to some of the activities of that specific sector. But here just to say that within Peter Arlett's sector, there is 66 staff members, and the other responsibility, very briefly summarized, are data collection and management of ADRs and pharmacovigilance, signal detection and data analysis, risk management and coordination and networking of activities of pharmacovigilance like NCEP and so on. Here I already mentioned, I think, the responsibility of the regulatory, procedural, and committee support sector. Just here, maybe to mention that there are 56 staff members within this sector, headed by Tony Humphries. And maybe something I did not mention previously is the fact that within that sector, there is also the processing and management of all the referral procedures. So if any of your products was to be involved in a referral procedure of any kind, from an Article 5.3 to an Article 20 to every kind of referral, this will be managed within this sector by a specific section led by Annabella Markau. The other particularity not previously mentioned is that there again, there has been a lot of emphasis mentioned about conflict of interest, confidentiality, and so on. The expert database and the entry of the expert into our database is also managed and centralized within that sector. Medical information, so there again, I think details will be provided by Juan, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just maybe to highlight there again, some of you who may be involved with getting feedback on product information during an evaluation from the QRD Secretariat, that comes from that specific sector within the organization. And also there has been a change. The NRG, the Invented Name Review Group, is now also within Isabel sector. And all the working parties of healthcare professional and patient consumer also are within the responsibility and the secretariat provided within that specific sector. Compliance and sector headed by Fergus Sweeney. I already mentioned all this coordination of GCP, GLP being managed within that sector. There is also the coordination of member state activities in response of suspected quality defect. So there again, this is where information coming from member state on some of your product quality defect will be, let's say, coming and analyzed and then spread around this network, and then potentially that regulatory action will be taken on. But the source of the information will be coming and sourced from that specific sector. This sector also provides the chair and secretarial support to many, many groups. And here I'm just listing, I mean, quite a lot of them, but that also highlights sometimes why you have difficulty to contact some of my colleagues in inspection, because they are so much involved with many other activities that, as I mentioned, are here listed about GMP, GDP inspection working group, UDRA, GMP, TIG and subgroup, GCSP inspector subgroup, and so on. This is, I think, some of our activities, but I'm not going to enter into too much detail, but just maybe to mention one or two of them. I think the UDRA clinical trial and UDRA GMP business management of the database are also managed by this specific sector. Veterinary and medicine and product management unit. Here, I think, as I said, the veterinary medicines, I think this is a separate unit and sector, sorry, within that specific unit. But something maybe to highlight about product data management is the fact that there again, from a human medicine point of view, this is where, when you apply for marketing authorization or when you submit your application, this is where the sector who will be responsible for actually registering your application, for organizing the pre-submission meetings, for maintaining the master file of your application, and for also preparing and verifying all the financial transactions related to the fees that you will have to pay for your application submitted. So here this is something which is remote from the, let's say, core business management of the evaluation, but is key to actually contact point for you to be aware of and where it is located within the structure, because that will be, and Claudia will be providing you with some more details about this. The fourth unit, information and communication, there again, I'm not going into too much detail because I think as a stakeholder from industry or other, like patient and consumer and healthcare professional, this has not really direct kind of impact on you. This is just providing us with the tools, IT tools and infrastructure to be able to communicate and to develop this further in the future and enabling us also for the networking. Administration, I think this is maybe something to mention because it might not be that obvious from the external perspective. They are not only managing the staff members and their recruitment, but also I think they manage the revenue expenditure of the agency. So this is where all money coming in and out is also centrally managed, and they are also responsible for everything related to infrastructure and functioning of the agency from the practical meeting management point of view. So I hope this is not giving you too much information, but hopefully clarifying. But in any case, I'm lucky to have all my colleagues here identified in this organigram who will be providing you with information of all the different key, let's say, sector sections that you as a stakeholder from industry applying for marketing authorization to the agency will be in contact with at a certain point. Thank you very much.